Imagine learning English not just through grammar rules or long vocabulary lists, but through the powerful story of a man who changed the world. Welcome back, dear learners. Today, you're not only going to improve your English, you're going to be inspired by the life of Nelson Mandela. This isn't just another language lesson. It's a journey filled with hope, courage, and perseverance. As you listen, you'll discover new words, sharpen your pronunciation, and strengthen your listening skills. But more importantly, you'll feel the spirit of a leader who never gave up, no matter how dark the road became. Each phrase you learn is more than a tool for communication. It's a reminder that persistence can break even the strongest chains. So let's begin this adventure together. Stay with me until the end, because Mandela's journey will not only help you grow in English but also ignite something powerful inside you. The belief that no matter where you are, no matter what obstacles you face, you can rise, you can lead, and you can make a difference. And when you finish watching, remember, your growth doesn't stop here. Subscribe, like, and share this video so we can continue exploring stories that inspire your language and your life. On July 18, 1918, in a small village called Umvezo in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, a baby boy was born who would one day become a symbol of freedom for the entire world. His birth name was Rolihlahla, a Xhosa word that means pulling the branch of a tree, though many also translate it as troublemaker. And in a way, that name was prophetic, because he would go on to challenge injustice and shake the very foundations of an unfair system. Rolihlahla Mandela was not born into wealth or luxury, but he was born into dignity. His family belonged to the Thembu royal lineage, a proud tribe with deep traditions. His father, Gadla Henry, was a respected chief and advisor to the Thembu king, a man who carried authority and honor in his community. His mother, Nosekeni Fanny, was a gentle yet strong woman, a devout Christian who taught her son the values of kindness, humility, and faith. This blend of royal heritage and spiritual guidance shaped the foundation of Mandela's character. From his father, he inherited leadership and courage. From his mother, he learned compassion and moral strength. Even as a child in a humble rural village, his roots were preparing him for a destiny far greater than anyone could imagine. And so, from the very beginning, Rolihlahla Mandela's life carried a powerful message. Greatness does not come from where you are born, but from how you choose to live. If Mandela's beginnings inspire you, stay with this journey, because his story will show you how a boy from a small village became a leader who changed the world. And before you move on, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss more stories that improve your English and your life. Nelson Mandela's childhood was rooted in the simple beauty of rural village life. He grew up in the rolling hills and open fields of the Eastern Cape, in a place untouched by modern luxuries. There was no electricity, no running water, and no paved roads, but there was freedom. Mandela spent his days running barefoot through the grass, herding cattle and swimming in clear streams with his friends. Life was humble, but it was full of joy. In the evenings, when the sun dipped below the horizon, the village elders would gather the children around the fire. There they told stories, powerful tales of warriors, chiefs, and leaders who fought with courage and wisdom. Young Mandela listened closely, his imagination sparked by the bravery and honor in those stories. One day, his father shared a lesson that stayed with him forever. A true leader is not someone who seeks power for himself, but someone who serves his people. These words planted a seed in Mandela's heart, a belief that leadership was about responsibility, sacrifice, and service. Even as a young boy, barefoot in a remote village, Mandela was already beginning to understand the values that would one day guide him as a leader of a nation. When Nelson Mandela was just 9 years old, his life took a heartbreaking turn. His father, who had been his guide and protector, fell ill and passed away. The loss left young Mandela devastated, but it also became the moment that changed the direction of his life forever. After his father's death, Mandela's mother took him to live with Chief Jongintaba, the acting regent of the Thembu people. The chief welcomed Mandela into his home as if he were his own son. Suddenly, the boy from a small rural village found himself living in the royal palace, a place filled with tradition, authority, and responsibility. In the chief's household, Mandela witnessed leadership in action. He watched as elders held meetings, made decisions, and guided the community with wisdom and fairness. For the first time, Mandela saw how power was not only about privilege but also about duty. The duty to serve, protect, and uplift others. These years in the palace exposed Mandela to the values of discipline, respect, and responsibility. He was no longer just a carefree village boy. He was being prepared, unknowingly, for the role of leadership that destiny had placed before him. At the age of 7, Mandela's journey into formal education began when he attended a local Methodist school. It was here that a small but life-shaping moment occurred. His teacher, following the custom of the time, gave him an English name, Nelson. Though Mandela didn't fully understand why he needed a new name, he accepted it, not knowing that this identity would one day be recognized across the entire world. In the classroom, Mandela quickly stood out for his curiosity and love of learning. He developed a deep passion for English literature, geography, and history. What fascinated him most were the stories of African heroes who resisted colonial rule and fought for justice. These tales ignited a fire within him, a desire not just to understand the world, but to one day change it. From a young age, Mandela began to see education not simply as a pathway to a career, but as a tool for transformation. He embraced the belief that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. This conviction would guide him through the hardships of his life, giving him strength in moments when everything else seemed lost. School gave Mandela more than reading and writing. It gave him vision. It taught him that knowledge was not just personal power, but collective power, capable of lifting entire communities out of oppression. As Mandela grew older, his eyes began to open to the harsh realities of the world around him. South Africa was ruled by the cruel system of apartheid, a system that denied Black South Africans the right to vote, to own land, or to share in the opportunities their white counterparts enjoyed. He could see the injustice everywhere, in the poverty of his people, in the limitations placed on their lives, and in the walls that divided communities. At the age of 16, Mandela took part in a traditional Xhosa ceremony of manhood, a rite of passage where boys were welcomed into adulthood. It was a time of pride and celebration, but also a moment of reflection. During the ceremony, the elders spoke not only of the responsibilities of manhood, but also of their sorrow, the sorrow of seeing their people living under oppression, stripped of their dignity and freedom. Those words pierced Mandela's heart. That day, the ceremony became more than a cultural tradition. It became a turning point. Mandela felt the weight of responsibility settle on his young shoulders. He realized that true manhood, true leadership, meant more than caring for oneself. It meant fighting for justice, dignity, and equality for his people. In that moment, a deep sense of duty was born within him. The spark that had been lit by stories of warriors and heroes in his childhood now grew into a flame that would drive him through decades of struggle, sacrifice, and unimaginable hardship in the name of freedom. At just 19 years old, Mandela was confronted with a choice that would change the course of his life. According to tradition, his guardian had arranged a marriage for him, but Mandela's heart longed for something different. He wanted freedom, education, and a future where he could carve his own path. So with quiet courage, he made a bold decision. He ran away from home and journeyed to Johannesburg. The city was a world unlike the rural villages he had known. Instead of open fields and clear streams, Mandela found himself surrounded by crowded streets, mines, and the harsh reality of urban life under apartheid. He faced poverty head-on, often struggling to make ends meet. To survive, he worked odd jobs, at one point even serving as a watchman at a gold mine. Life in Johannesburg was far from easy. Mandela lived in poor conditions, often unsure of what tomorrow would bring. But even in those dark and difficult days, he refused to give up on his dream of education. By day, he labored to survive. By night, he devoted himself to his studies, determined to rise above the chains of circumstance. Those years of hardship shaped Mandela's resilience. They taught him humility, perseverance, and the truth that education and determination could carry him further than privilege ever could. Though he was just a young man struggling in a divided city, he was already walking the path that would one day lead him to greatness. Mandela's determination eventually carried him to the University of Witwatersrand, where he began studying law. It was a rare achievement for a Black South African at the time, and Mandela quickly realized how out of place he was. He was one of only a handful of black students in the entire university. Surrounded by privilege and prejudice, he often faced open discrimination from classmates and professors alike. Yet instead of breaking him, these experiences fueled his resolve. He understood more deeply than ever the barriers his people faced, and he knew something had to change. During these years, Mandela's path crossed with activists, thinkers, and leaders who shared his vision for freedom. It was then that he joined the African National Congress, ANC, a movement determined to fight the injustices of apartheid. In dimly lit rooms and whispered conversations, Mandela attended secret meetings where plans were made, strategies were formed, and a dream of an equal South Africa was kept alive. He imagined a nation where a person's worth would not be measured by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Sitting at those meetings, Mandela wasn't just a student of law, he was becoming a student of justice, of leadership, of revolution. The young man who once ran barefoot through the hills of his village was now preparing to stand at the forefront of history, ready to challenge one of the most oppressive systems the world had ever seen. Mandela's fire for justice only grew stronger. Along with a group of young, fearless activists, he helped form the ANC Youth League, a movement within the ANC that sought bold, direct action against apartheid. They believed that South Africa's freedom could not wait for gradual change. It had to be fought for with urgency and courage. Mandela quickly rose as a powerful voice. His speeches stirred hearts and moved crowds. With conviction ringing in his voice, he reminded people, "It always seems impossible until it's done." For many, these words were more than inspiration. They were a call to stand up and believe that change was within reach. In 1944, Mandela's personal life also took a new turn. He married Evelyn Mays, a nurse with a warm heart and steady spirit. Together, they started a family, and Mandela became a devoted husband and father. Yet his growing responsibilities as a leader often pulled him away from home. Balancing the roles of family man and freedom fighter was never easy. Evelyn longed for stability, while Mandela was drawn ever deeper into the struggle for justice. It was a life filled with love and sacrifice, hope and hardship, a reminder that even the strongest leaders are human, torn between duty to their family and duty to their people. In 1948, South Africa sank deeper into injustice as the government passed new apartheid laws, tightening racial segregation in every part of life. Black South Africans faced harsher restrictions on where they could live, work, and even whom they could marry. Mandela refused to stay silent. Drawing inspiration from Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolent resistance, he organized protests, strikes, and marches through the African National Congress. The government struck back with violence, arrests and intimidation, and Mandela himself was jailed multiple times. Yet each arrest only deepened his resolve. Despite the challenges, Mandela pressed forward with his education. In 1952, he achieved a milestone, becoming a qualified lawyer. Together with his close friend Oliver Tambo, he co-founded the first black-owned law firm in South Africa. Their mission was clear: to defend those who had no voice, offering affordable or free legal help to black South Africans who suffered under apartheid's brutal laws. It was a bold stand against an unjust system, proving that Mandela's fight was not just on the streets, but also in the courtrooms. In 1960, the struggle for freedom in South Africa reached a turning point. During a peaceful protest in Sharpeville, police opened fire on unarmed demonstrators, killing 69 people and wounding hundreds more. The massacre shocked the world and revealed the brutality of apartheid in its rawest form. The South African government's response was swift and harsh. It banned the ANC and other anti-apartheid movements, driving their leaders underground. Faced with the reality that peaceful resistance alone was not enough, Mandela and his colleagues made a historic decision. He co-founded Umkhonto we Sizwe, meaning Spear of the Nation. This armed wing of the ANC did not target civilians but focused on sabotaging government structures, power plants, railways, and symbols of apartheid rule. Mandela explained their new strategy clearly. Their goal was not to kill, but to cripple the system of oppression that denied millions their freedom. It was a dangerous shift that placed Mandela at the top of the government's most wanted list. In 1962, Mandela's fight for freedom led to his capture. He was arrested and brought to trial on charges of sabotage, treason, and attempting to overthrow the government. The world's attention turned to the courtroom, where Mandela transformed his trial into a platform for truth. Instead of defending himself in fear, he delivered one of the most powerful speeches in history. With calm conviction, he declared, "I have fought against white domination and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal for which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." Those words echoed far beyond the courtroom, shaking the conscience of the world. Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment and sent to the notorious Robben Island, a remote and harsh prison off the coast of Cape Town. There, confined to a tiny cell with little more than a thin mat, forced into hard labor at the limestone quarry, and allowed only one visitor and one letter every 6 months, Mandela's struggle entered its most grueling chapter. Prison life for Nelson Mandela was designed to break his spirit, but instead it revealed the strength of his character. On Robben Island, he was forced into hard labor in a limestone quarry. His hands blistered, his eyes damaged by the glaring sun. His cell was no larger than a few steps across, with only a thin mat on the floor. Food was scarce and often of poor quality. Even human connection was stripped away. Mandela was allowed just one visitor and one letter every 6 months. And yet, instead of despairing, Mandela transformed prison into a school of resilience. He spent countless hours studying, reading, and reflecting. He even learned Afrikaans, the language of his oppressors, not to submit but to understand them better. Younger prisoners looked up to him and he became their mentor, teaching them not only about politics and leadership, but also about hope, discipline, and dignity. Over time, Mandela's quiet strength turned him into far more than just a prisoner. He became a symbol of resistance. His name was whispered in secret across South Africa, sung in songs of protest and written on banners around the world. Movements in Europe, America, Asia, and beyond rallied with a single demand: free Nelson Mandela. The government had tried to silence him, but Mandela's voice had grown louder than ever. From behind bars, he inspired millions, proving that even in chains, the human spirit can remain unshakable. On February 11, 1990, the world held its breath as Nelson Mandela walked out of Victor Verster prison after 27 long years behind bars. His hair had turned gray, his steps were steady but slow, yet his spirit was unbroken. Crowds filled the streets, people danced, cried, and sang. To millions across the globe, it felt as though freedom itself had been released that day. But Mandela's true greatness was revealed not in his freedom, but in what he chose to do with it. Many expected anger, revenge, or even a call for blood after decades of oppression. Instead, Mandela preached forgiveness. He once said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." These words became his guiding light as he sought to heal a deeply divided nation. Mandela led South Africa through tense negotiations with the very government that had imprisoned him. He fought not with weapons, but with wisdom, patience, and vision. In 1994, history was made when South Africans of all races stood together in long lines, voting for the very first time in a true democracy. On that day, Nelson Mandela became the first black president of South Africa, a living symbol of triumph over injustice. As president, his mission was clear: unity and reconciliation. One of his most powerful gestures came during the 1995 Rugby World Cup. Rugby had long been a symbol of white South Africa, but Mandela, wearing the Springbok jersey, stood beside the team, showing the world that sport could heal wounds that politics could not. It was a moment that united a fractured nation and echoed across the globe. Mandela's release, his presidency, and his acts of reconciliation proved that true leadership is not about holding on to anger, but about choosing peace, even when it seems impossible. His story showed that love and forgiveness are stronger than hate and revenge. After serving just one term as president, Nelson Mandela made a decision that stunned the world. He stepped down willingly. At a time when many leaders clung to power, Mandela proved once again that true leadership is about service, not control. His humility became as inspiring as his courage. In his later years, Mandela turned his energy toward causes that touched millions. He became a global advocate for peace, education, and the fight against poverty and HIV/AIDS. He believed that no child should grow up without hope. No family should be broken by disease, and no society should remain divided by hatred. Wherever he went, his presence was a reminder of resilience and compassion. On December 5, 2013, at the age of 95, Nelson Mandela passed away. The world mourned the loss of a giant. Leaders, celebrities, and ordinary people gathered to honor a man whose influence reached far beyond South Africa. Streets were filled with songs, tears, and tributes, because Mandela did not just belong to his nation, he belonged to humanity. His legacy is eternal. He showed us that perseverance can overcome despair, that forgiveness can heal even the deepest wounds, and that unity is stronger than division. Perhaps most importantly, Mandela proved that one person, armed with courage and determination, truly can change the world. He left us with a timeless message. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. These words remind us that failure is not the end, but a step on the journey to greatness. So, whenever life knocks you down, think of Mandela. Rise again. Keep moving forward. Because like him, you too have the power to make a difference.